I just want to review what we've now been talking about over these three pillars. We started by talking about the types system. And we talked about how types exist in JavaScript. Even though it's a dynamically typed language, it still has real types. And we have a set of different mechanisms for how we can convert from one type to another type. That's called coercion. We have a specific kind of coercion that's available to us with our equality checking. And we can find different use cases for different times when we want to use coercive equality checking versus a more strict type of checking. Both of those are entirely valid things that we want to do in our programs. The second pillar that we looked at was the scope and the closures system. The scope and closures is really one of the most important and powerful patterns. It underlines things like the module pattern, which is a much more complex topic than we had time to get into in this workshop, but it's covered in these books, and I strongly recommend once you go from here that you go dive into, understand closure more, and then learn about the module pattern. And finally, the third unit that we've just talked about is the this keyword and the prototype system. And together, the this keyword and the prototype system enable us to do classes using that new class keyword. Those really, that's the map. That really is the landscape of the fundamental core principles that you need for JavaScript. And though we've gone through them in just a brief period of time here in this course, I don't want you to take away as oh, well, I'm done and I can move on. No, these are so much more rich of a topic that you need to spend so many more hours and weeks and months even digging into. And there is no substitute for you actually practicing this stuff. You can't just listen to me talking about it. You've got to do it like in the exercises and retry these exercises. And you've got to also go and try them on your own code bases. If you don't have a code base yet, try to find an open source project that's out there to look at it. But as you go along that journey, as you're trying to learn more about that stuff, I just want to remind you that all the topics that we talked about in this section of the course, all of these pillars, those are laid out in more detail in Chapter 2 of the Up and Going book. And then Chapter 3 shows you where to get more information about each of those topics throughout the rest of the You Don't Know JS series.